I want to talk about today thinking on the level of your calling, part one. This is going to be a series, thinking on the level of your calling. And I want to give some candid illustrations. I wish y'all could actually see my drawing. I might animate it next time. But what I have is a mountain. You have this mountain and you know you're called to the top. But there's going to be a journey to get there. So as you walk around this mountain, you look for an access point, a point in which you're to start climbing. The longer you walk around the mountain, the more frustration kicks in. Lost, you're oppressed, depression starts to kick in, because you're watching everybody else gain their access points and go up. Yet you're getting older, but you still haven't found your calling. You're still walking around. And people start to label you during that time as unmotivated, as living below your means, okay? And as you find your access point, you can go one of two ways up this mountain. You can go up the bad side, or you can go up the good side. So let's talk about the good side. If you're going up the good side, as you go up the mountain to your calling, you start to make sacrifices. Because you know that you have to give up something in order to climb. Here is the problem. Going up the mountain, you have this backpack full of rocks that's always getting heavier and heavier, causing you to want to go back down. In life, it's called a craving. So you have a calling, then you have this craving. The craving wants you to go back and do what you used to do. The calling says, keep going forward. Keep climbing up. So on this good side, you have pain. You know you're going to have to go through some pain when you're going up this mountain, because like the old saying goes, no pain, no gain. So it's not going to be easy walking up this mountain. But here's the other problem. You got the bad side. The bad side is when you experience turmoil, like hurt, and you began to hurt people. You began to experience loss because you were unethical, because you were not a good steward. So you got this bad side, but yet you're still walking towards your calling. And that backpack is getting heavy. On the good side, the thing is, as you walk up the mountain, you get stronger and you get stronger. So now you're able to sustain the backpack that's on your back. And basically, to whom much is given, much is required. You're strong enough to handle what you have, because you've been elevated and elevated and elevated, but you gained strength along the way. But on the bad side, you've been elevated, but yet you haven't learned from it. Yet, in fact, you've been trying to cheat the system by throwing some rocks out of your bag, making it look like you're on the same level as everybody else. But yet you don't have the same pressures. Because every time you go to climb up, you throw rocks out of your bag, making it look like you're climbing up. So finally, as you get to what we call a higher calling, now the pressure starts to get greater. Because on the bad side, you run the risk of falling. And when you fall, everybody sees it. You're embarrassed. And that's because you haven't gained the strength enough to sustain yourself at the top. Because you can only go so far before you begin to fall because you're not strong enough. You haven't learned a lot of lessons from it. But on the good side, you continue to climb. And you maintain your status at the top. Now, what do all of this have to do with thinking on the level in which you were called? Let's start back down in the valley. If you are called, you know it at a young age. Okay? God gives you what we call glimpses. Glimpses of, hey, this is who you're going to be. It's your dream, it's your vision. As a little boy, I often dreamed about preaching, playing church. I was always the preacher when me and my cousins just playing it, But I knew I was called to do something in front of people. That was my calling because that's where I succeeded the most. One-on-one, Brother Frank, I was kind of shy. Answering direct questions in front of people, I'm kind of shy, but I could speak in front of the crowd. You give me that, I can do that. So I knew I had these glimpses from God that, hey, you're called to be something. Okay? Now, if you start looking at this, let's start putting this to scripture. Lord Acton, he was a historian in 1887. He said this, and I want y'all to ponder this and give me some feedback. He said to his letter to Bishop Mendel Creighton, he said, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. That's what he said. He said, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. What does that mean to you? Power tends to corrupt. As you ponder that, I want you to think about this. In our society today, we have a lot of young people who get success early, like athletes, for instance, and movie stars, all of the celebrities. And it seems like the younger they are, the more they mess up. Power tends to corrupt. Look at our president today. He has the most power on this earth as far as the United States is concerned. Is he corrupt? So is that letter true? Power tends to corrupt? Absolute power corrupts absolute. What is absolute power? It's unguarded power. It's dictatorship. This means that you control everything. And you have no safeguards. So can a man actually be trusted with power, with no safeguards? Why not? Why not?
Corrupt.
Is it his nature to be corrupt?
It might not have started to be his nature, but like you said, power tends to corrupt. You can't
Okay.
help it, I guess.
Okay. I want us to take a look at this as far as scripture is concerned. Let's go to Judges. Chapter 13, verse 25. We know this young man very well. His name is Samson. He's a young man with power. Judges 13:25. Watch what the Bible says. And the Spirit of the Lord began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, between Zorah and Eshtaol. Now watch this. The Spirit of the Lord began to move on him at times, which means Samson was shown glimpses of his greatness. So every time when he was young, he had to do something. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him and he did something real good. So he knew he was called to do something at the top. Okay? So he had these glimpses when he was young, so he knew he was talented. He knew he was good at something. And watch this. The question for us is now, was Samson too young to have all that power? That's the question for us. Because when we go to chapter 14, I want you to see it. Chapter 14 says, and Samuel went down to Timnath and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Philistines. Right there. Okay, let's go back. First of all, Samson is a young man and he's a judge with power. But they're living under Philistine rule. Philistines basically has them under siege. You can do everything that you want to as long as you stay in this realm. So the Philistine is running everything. But Israel has this judge named Samson. He's supposed to be young and powerful. He's a Nazarite. Basically, from birth, he's been separated by God. So he's been called to go to the top. He's young. And so here's the question. He's supposed to be governing Israel. What is he doing chasing women in a Canaanite city called Timnath? He's young. He has authority. He has a position. Is his morals separated from his position, or do they go together? That's the question for us. Do we not care about his personal life just because he has authority in Israel? Or do the two go together? Is he not worthy just because he's in Timnath when he should be governing Israel? So he's young and he's chasing women in Philistine. What do you think is going to happen out of this? Correct. Is he strong enough to handle it? Watch this. Has he? Here's the mountain. Watch the mountain. The mountain is designed for you to climb. Here's the problem with going up too fast. You haven't adapted the ways of climbing. You haven't, your breathing, when you go up, your breathing haven't adapted to the higher climbing. You have to take your time. You have to get up the next level, settle in, see what's going on, get your breathing right, get your body right, and then go up to the next one. If they take you up too high, you're going to get dizzy. You're going to start to feel sick. Well, Samson's a young man, and already he's, bam, up here. But where is his level of thinking? Still down in the valley. He has this position, but he's thinking like this. Because he is not aware that his social ethics is tied to who he is. He is not aware. And that's what tends to happen when you're young and you get so much power.
Wow.
Does everybody understand what I just said? He's omitting the fact that he has a position and he just wants to do what he wants to do. Okay, let me show you. Let's go. Let's try this scripture. Let's try Psalm 119. No, before we go there, let's try this one. Let's try Ecclesiastes. Let's try that one. Ecclesiastes 11 and 9. Ecclesiastes 11 and 9. Watch what it says. Rejoice, O young man, in thy youth, and let thy heart cheer thee in the days of thy youth, and walk in the ways of thine heart, and in the sight of thine eyes. But know thou that for all these things God will bring thee into judgment. That's it. It's like a facetious scripture. It's like saying, go ahead and rejoice. Be young, live it up. But understand that you're going to have to answer this. Does everybody understand what the scripture is saying? Rejoice, oh young man. Do what you do. But sooner or later, you're going to have to pay for what you're doing. That's the Bible. Because just because you're young, does that mean you have to be done?
That's what they think.
That's what they think. But is it true? Is it true? It's not necessarily true. But you got to understand something. There's a process for going up the mountain. And anytime you omit the process, because what he should have been doing, watch this, was learning how to be a judge while he was a judge. Does everybody understand that? Because he was just placed there because of who he is. But he should have been learning on the job. Who is the greatest person to learn from? Anybody know? Let's look at it. Let's go to Psalm 119. And 9. All right. Somebody read it for me, so y'all gonna think I'm making it up.
Wherewith shall a young man cleanse his way by taking heed hereto according to thy word.
Okay? How shall a young man with this power, walk clean? How are you going to do it? Because his reputation for being young is corrupt. Everybody know that. But how can he walk clean? That's the question. What is the answer? Reading the word and walking according to the word. That's it. It's not rocket science. It's plain and simple. The only way you're going to have that much power when you're young and still sustain it is by going to the word. I ask myself the question, Because, you know, I was young and all that stuff, you know. What if somebody was to give you some advice, that would be the best advice, but would you take it? You're about to become a millionaire, signed with the Los Angeles Lakers at the age of 19. How many people actually pull you to the side and say, hey man, whatever you do, stay in the Word or get in the Word. It's the only way you're going to be able to sustain yourself. That's the advice that is given right here. When you're on your way to power, you have power, the only way you can do it is right here. It sounds cliche-ish. If it's so cliche-ish, look at around us, look at how many people are falling.
Exactly.
Even the ones who's been climbing on the bad side, throwing out their rocks, pretending like they're in the Word. Sooner or later, you're going to fall. Okay? So how can a man sustain his way? Go to Hosea 6.
You said Hosea. What?
Hosea 6. Toward the New Testament, I gotta get real thin with your pages.
Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel.
Six and what?
Let's go, actually,
Gotta look at my notes. I'm supposed to put that name.
let me know, make sure. I think it's Hosea 6, y'all, hold on. Look at my notes. I'm sorry. Micah 6, I'm sorry.
That's almost.
Word down wrong. It's just a page over, basically.
Amos, Obadiah, Jonah.
Micah 6. So Micah 6 and 8. Let's back up a little bit. Let's go to 7 and then we'll read it. Watch 7. Watch what it says. Will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams or with 10,000 rivers of oil? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgressions, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? So basically, what does the Lord require of thee for my sins? Because when I'm walking up this mountain, I'm not going to be perfect. When I'm on top of this mountain, I'm not going to be perfect. But what does the Lord require of me is the question. Watch this in verse 8. He has showed thee, O man, this is a man, this is not a young man. This is man, period. What is good. And with the Lord require of thee, in other words, what does the Lord require of thee? But to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. Here we go. The only way you're going to stay at that top and maintain yourself in your imperfect state that you were born in is to walk humbly with God. Watch this, y'all. Humble and arrogance don't go together. Anytime you're at that top and you're arrogant, look how far you got to fall. But if you stay with God and you walk humbly with Him, look at Jesus. Look at Jesus. Watch this. Watch this. Jesus is the only one I can really think of. You know, there's probably some great men that did some great things. But Jesus sticks out in my mind for having absolute power. But what does the Bible say about his attitude? Humble. Humility. That's one of his qualities. So if Jesus has to be humble, and he's at the top with absolute power, what do you think we have to do? We have to be humble when we start getting this power, understanding that we don't deserve it. There's no way you're supposed to come out this young, Samson, and get over everybody. They've been in this game a long time. And here you come out of nowhere. A young man, and you got all this power over all these old men and stuff. How are you going to do it? Being humble. If you're not humble, then you're setting yourself up for failure. Okay, watch it, watch it. Let's look at Samson's life. Let's go back to Judges. Bible aerobics today. Go back to Judges 14. Samson's problem wasn't that he got power too early. His problem was that he wasn't humble. Watch it, watch it. So we know in verse 1, he goes down to Timnah. So you think that you're powerful enough to dwell with people who are not like you and still maintain your integrity. That's the problem with being young and dumb. Okay? Let's go to 2 Corinthians. Keep your judges now. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 6 and 14.
Bad company. Second Corinthians what?
2 Corinthians 6 and 14. Everybody knows the scripture, right? Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? Okay. Unequally yoked with unbelievers. The myth out there, y'all, is unequally yoked is about you and the person not getting along. That has nothing to do with it. This was a godly statement to godly people. He's a Nazarite, y'all. He's separated. He's not even with the common folks. He's separated. So if anybody knows they're for God, everybody knows him. They can look at his hair, they can tell his prayer life, they can look at him and tell, oh yeah, he's separated. What is he doing down there? Dwelling with folks who are not like him. That's the problem. That's what arrogance brings along. Arrogance brings along a sense of, it won't happen to me. I can deal with it. That's the problem. So we're looking at this man. He's not supposed to be down there. He's young, and he's been ran, watch this, by passion. He hasn't climbed a mountain long enough to adapt to anything. All he has is passion. So whatever he wants to do, he'll do it. And y'all can't tell him nothing because who's in charge? He is. That's the problem. He's in charge. Can nobody tell him nothing? Let's go. Verse 2.
Well,
Oh, going back to Judges. Judges 14 and 2. And he came up and told his father and his mother, and said, I have seen a woman in Timnah of the daughters of Philistines, and therefore get her for me to wife. He's a young man, and watch this. Here's the basic. This is a basic proverb. Son, listen to your father's instructions. Anytime you're arrogant, your mama or your daddy can't tell you nothing. But yet, you're not responsible enough to do it on your own. That's oxymoronic within itself. That's like saying, Mom and Daddy, go get up and go get me a car right now. And you ain't even got no job. So you can't do it yourself, but yet you're trying to tell your parents what to do. And they're supposed to be advising you. It's too arrogant. So now he's outside of his realm. He's all in Philistines' territory. He won't listen to his mom and daddy. He's setting himself up for failure. Watch this. It gets better. Verse 3. His father and his mother said unto him, Is there never a woman among the daughters of thy brethren or among my people that thou goest to take a wife of the uncircumcised Philistines? And Samson said to his father, Get her for me, for she pleased me well. She looked good. He hasn't experienced nothing. She looks good. Get her for me. That's it. In the conversation. Who's in charge here? He is. So we got a big problem here. So, when you get to verse 4, you're going to look at something and it's going to feel real strange. Understand that he's been separated. He knows who he is. But he doesn't know how to handle it. Watch verse 4. But his father and his mother knew not that it was of the Lord that he sought an occasion against the Philistines. For at the time, the Philistines had dominion over Israel. So this is what he's saying. Okay, my ulterior motive is to get the Philistines because they're ruling us. And he thought, I'm going to do it this way. I'm going to date one of their women, and I'm going to get all into their camp, and I'm going to destroy them. But here's the thing, Brother Aaron. He forgot about his own passion. He forgot about his own craving. His eyes. He forgot about his lust. Because he's actually thinking he can do something for God and still have this lust under control. The two don't go together. They don't go together. The Bible said, what man can play with fire in his bosom and not get burned? You're going to get burned every time. So he's actually thinking he's going to sneak up on the Philistines, is what he's thinking he's doing. But you haven't, watch this, you haven't learned enough about the Philistines to be doing this. That's the problem. You just got in charge. And you want to go out there with no experience, no nothing, and just go ahead and just start doing your own thing, not listening to nobody. Because you're arrogant. Okay, let's go to verse 5. Then went Samson down, his father and his mother, to Timnah, and came to the vineyards to Timnah. Behold, a young lion roared against him. Verse 6, and the Spirit of the Lord came mightily upon him, and he rent him, and he would rent a kid, and he had nothing in his hand, and he told not his father or his mother what he had done. Okay? Here's the question, and I don't know the answer to this question, but I want y'all to do this for me. Why wouldn't he tell his mother and his father about his great strength? Why?
Why would he,
Well, why wouldn't he?
or why wouldn't
What's so bad about saying, Mama, lion came up against me and I tore him with my bare hands? Why you didn't tell them? Think about it. Now, for me, first of all, he's arrogant. He don't even listen to his mother and father. Because he don't need anybody's advice about nothing right now. So, this great calling came from God. The Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he knows it. But yet, he fixed to try to get hooked up with Philistines. So just think about it. He's really playing a dangerous game here. He's playing a dangerous game. He knows he's being called by God because he can make glimpse again. This is who you really are. The Lord is with you. What are you doing over here now? If you go over there and destroy them and all that, then I understand, hey, I guess that's what's your secret. But you're too young and they look too good and things just don't go well like that. Okay, let's keep reading. Verse 7. And he went down and talked with the woman, and she pleased Samson well. And after a time, he returned to take her, and he turned aside to see the carcass of the lion. And behold, there was a swarm of bees and honey in the carcass of the lion. And he took thereof in his hands, and went on eating, and came to his father and mother, and he gave them, and they did eat. But he told not them that he had taken it, the honey out of the carcass of the lion. Okay? Here's what it is right here. It's deception. Watch this. As a Nazirite, he's not supposed to touch anything dead. You see that? But yet he has a problem. What's his problem? Things look good to him. So when he saw the honey, that's just as sweet as can be, he couldn't resist it. Even though his religious values says, don't touch anything dead. He's overriding his own morality for his eyes. So he has a big problem. Watch. Let's continue on. And he hid it from his mother and father again. Let's look down, verse 9. And he took their, well, no, verse 10, I'm sorry. So his father went down into the woman, and Samson made their feast, for so used the young men to do. So basically, they got a wedding feast going on now. They about to get married. This could last a week or 2 weeks. Every day they just partying, they drinking, everything, just living it up, getting ready for the wedding. Okay? The family, both families are together on this. Verse 11. It came to pass, when they saw him, that they brought 30 champions to be with him. And Samson said unto him, and said to them, I will now put forth a riddle unto you. If ye can certainly declare it me within the 7 days of the feast, and find it out, then I will give you 30 sheets and 30 change of garments. So, verse 12 sounds real innocent. He's partying up. He's getting ready for his wedding. And the 30 champions, watch this, are Philistines.